you look at Uber, they just took an experience which we all hate, taking a cab in the US. I mean, it's a nightmare. They look really bad. It's hard to get. You have to give them tips. You never know as a German how much tip you give. One app changed all of this. And they don't have to advertise that. Why? Because a good experience beats all that. Actually, I was just last weekend on the Walt Disney Museum. And there's a process chart of how he came up with a movie and how they produced the movie. That has nothing to do with German engineering. There were errors all over the place. It's even hard to follow. But this was the handbook of Disney employees, how to create a movie. And if you look at the platforms, right, and I think Dr. Danner talked about this in the morning already, about Uber being the biggest transportation company without owning assets. There's many examples of that. So the old model, how I describe it, and where we're really, really good at, is we know how to produce a product. It's more about what can you do with the connectivity. Where it becomes really interesting, though, is when we talk about smart social objects. That means we heard today about smart objects. I add social to it, because what I want certain products to do is actually think on themselves or take changes which they understand. First of all, there's a mind shift you have to change. Why? Because people using things like Uber, for example, which have not existed some years ago. What does this mean? That means that you have to play in an environment where you try to figure out how you fit in instead of how you lead. Nobody better than Uber can tell you where certain things should happen at a certain time based on what they got as data points. This is real money, and they get money for that kind of knowledge. So there is a lot of business behind that kind of information for itself.